Namaskar, everybody. Good morning. Hope everybody is doing well. In our satsang, as we always start, um, we'll do a 10 minutes of silence. For some people who are joining for this first time, the way we do this is we just close our eyes and whatever the thoughts are coming, we don't engage with the thoughts. We just let them come and go or pass by. So, as the example that I've always given is, as if you're standing on the platform and you're letting the trains come and go by. So let's start for 10 minutes. I'll set the alarm here, and then we'll start our session. Let's slowly come out of our silence. Take your time. Let's give it a minute or so. Okay, how's everybody feeling? Good? Okay, so today is a very special day. It's an important day, and I'm happy to see a lot of you who have joined today. You're actually probably meant to be here to listen to the satsang. Today is when we will discuss, um, and there will be an introduction of the threefold path. Um, this is this is a path um, which has been kind of, you can say, designed uh, or conceptualized by me through my understanding, experience, practice, and then experience. Um, the first part um, of the threefold path is right understanding. Um, and this is probably the most important uh, step, because without right understanding or right knowledge of what this is all about, life, creation, consciousness, universal consciousness, um, if you don't have it in the most simple form or understand it for what it is, then you try to um, analyze it or try to figure it out. And in today's world, today's day and age, there is a um, there's an overflow of information, and then beyond the information, there is a interpretation of that information, and then there are people who have tried to commercialize that um, as well. So, um, as a starting point, you have to understand there are only three things that are happening. One, there is the truth, um, and we'll come to discussing what is truth. The second point that happens is there's an appearance of recognition of this truth. That's the first appearance. And then the third part that happens is the appearance of loss or forgetfulness of this truth. But what has remained common in all these three aspects is the truth. So, which is why we say that truth is permanent. It is unchanging. Um, Scriptures have defined it in different forms and shapes, and but we always say that it's undefinable. So I think, as the first part, it is very important to understand what is truth. And I saw last week in our Chicago group, there was a lot of back and forth about, what is this all about? Trying to understand the mind, trying to understand consciousness. And then I think Pete asked this question is, but what is truth? So Ramanna put it the most simplest way. And I think that is also been my experience. He said that silence is truth, stillness is God. He also defined it in a different way. Um, he said the self or the truth is a silent, thought free state of undisturbed peace and total stillness, which is the same meaning. So if we believe that this is the truth, and as I said, that all our scriptures define it in the same way, there could be long definitions, people have tried to describe it, but the crux of the matter is truth is silent, um, and it's still. And if we take that, then anything that is happening after that, or an appearance of recognition of the truth, um, is nothing but um, an appearance of awareness of this truth. And that is what we call as pure consciousness or pure awareness. And then once that happens, then as I said, the third part is nothing but uh, the appearance of loss or forgetfulness of this truth, which is again happening in the form of um, thoughts, energy, and matter. But these are all just appearances. So the practice is very simple, guys. This is not rocket science. This is truth is supposed to be very simple. Um, and I know there are books and conversations and teachings written about this, and there are, we have fat books. There's so many different ways of looking at it, but this is very simple. So the practice um, is very simple. It's basically remembrance, constant remembrance of this truth. So if you truly believe and you start with that truth is silent and still, and this is permanent, it's not changing, then the constant remembrance of that in every aspect, in every moment of your life, in whatever you're doing, becomes your practice. Now, take a moment and think about this. If you have this right understanding and right knowledge that the truth is silent and still, and you practice that remembrance constantly, then what happens is that the more you practice, the more it reveals itself. And what is revealing itself? Truth itself, because that is the only thing that is in existence. And the more it's revealing itself, what is happening? It's not something new that you're attaining or achieving. It's only that you're remembering what you had appeared to have forgotten or lost. So when we say that the practice is of non-attachment or self-inquiry or surrender, it's nothing but, in a way, that you're constantly remembering this truth. Correct? Does that make sense? And the more you remember, the more it reveals what you're experiencing is nothing but the truth, which was your original state of being, anyways. So you started from the truth. There appears to be the recognition of that truth, which was the starting point. Then there is an appearance of the truth forgetting itself. So there is appearance of loss or forgetfulness of this truth. And by just remembering it constantly, just the same way you remember everything else, the same conviction and belief that this is the truth, the forgetfulness begins to disappear. And what is revealed is pure awareness or consciousness. So I'll stop there. And that's just the threefold path. The threefold path is nothing but first understanding this truth or this knowledge of what truth is. The second part is remembrance or constant remembrance of this truth so that you can abide and stabilize in this. So the more and more you practice, the more and more. And the third part, which is direct experience, is nothing but recognition, realization, and then eventually transcending this truth. So the more you do this, the more this triangle keeps happening. The more you get revealed, the more you understand. The more you understand, the more you practice. The more you practice, the more you experience, or more revelation happens. The more revelation happens until you do not need to do this anymore. And that is known as self-realization or nirvana or enlightenment or whatever you want to call it. So it's as simple as that. It's just the constant remembrance with the same belief and conviction that you believe that you're an individual. You have to have the same conviction and belief in the truth. Now, I can write a 200-page book on this, but the crux of the matter is simplicity, which is why there's a saying that Satya, Swachh hai, Sundar hai, Saral hai. What that means, that the truth is simple, is pure, and is beautiful. So don't overcomplicate things by analyzing them, by deep diving into them, by having, questions after questions or doubt after doubt, because that only creates more forgetfulness of what actually is. Okay, I'll stop there for some questions. No questions? People understood?
Yeah, Sri Ashish, could you repeat that last uh, few sentences? Satya Sundar, beautiful.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Satya Saral hai, Swachh hai, Sundar hai. So Satya is truth. Truth is simple, it's pure, and it's beautiful. And what is truth, Pete? You had asked this question. Truth is
yeah,
nothing but it's silent
right.
and it's still and it's permanent. That is the only thing, because truth, by its very definition, can't keep changing.
Uh,
Otherwise, it doesn't remain the truth.
that's beautiful. Yeah, now it makes a lot of sense.
Right?
Silence, pure and beautiful,
That's it.
right?
It's simple. And simplicity is in just in silence.
Right.
And that is your original state of being. It never changes. It will never change. That is the backdrop.
Mhm.
Everything else that appears to be changing, that's why they call it illusionary, because it's just make believe. And that is where the forgetfulness happens, or the appearance of loss of forgetfulness of this truth happens. Only three steps. There is the truth, which is always there, the backdrop. Don't have to try to attain it or achieve it, because it's not. Why do they say it's unattainable? Because it's always there.
Mhm.
You're trying to when you try to attain something is when it's something new you're trying to attain. But when something is already there,
Yeah,
there's no need to attain it. It's always there. Why is it unachievable? Because there's nothing to achieve. It's not a goal to be achieved. It's always there. It's always on. That's the backdrop. Everything else is an appearance of the truth. And the only way that appearance can happen is if you imagine it. So it's an imagination of the imaginary.
Sri Ashish, good morning. Um, I understood the definition of truth and the forgetfulness. What's the second point in the threefold path?
So
One
second
is,
so second
yeah,
point is the recognition, right? So remembrance. Second part of the threefold path is practice. And what is the practice? We have called it, you can say, self-inquiry, non-attachment, or surrender. There's different yoga parts of yoga, right, which are the tools and practices. But at the end of the day, there's nothing but, if you look at each practice in depth, is nothing but at the end remembrance of the truth. If you keep remembering constantly the truth, which is silent and still, your every act, your every thought, every emotion, everything that comes to you, right? Or there is an appearance of that. If you step back and remember that this is not the truth is silent and still, then what happens? Everything else is false. If everything else is false, then what kicks in? Then you don't need to be attached to it. So non attachment kicks in. If there is the self inquiry, if you keep remembering the truth and you abide in that constantly, then the question of who am I also goes away because there is no I. And from the point of truth or recognition of it, there is only one I. So this whole idea of individualistic existence also goes away. So the practice of self inquiry also gets encapsulated in this. The third, surrender. Who is surrendering to whom? Because the truth is silent and still. So the practice is nothing but of remembrance of this truth. The more you remember during the time that you're awake or sleeping or dreaming or deep sleep, whatever, the more you remember, and that's the practice. That is point number two of the threefold path. The right knowledge, right understanding, right practice, right action. This is the only action. If you have this action where you remember constantly what is the truth and abide in it, then that is the right action. All other actions are only an appearance.
that makes sense, Sri Ashish. I see. Before I felt that there is nothing like truth, but your definition. Yeah, makes sense. I mean, to my mind also that stillness and silence, there it is an unbreakable state. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yes.
then the third part of the threefold path then is the more you practice and the more you abide and stabilize in this truth, the revelation or revealing of the truth happens automatically. So as you do this, the more and more is revealed. So always remember, I've told you from day one that whatever the process is not a process of attaining anything new. It is only a process of removal. And what are you removing by remembering? You're only removing all the false or the knowledge or the false knowledge, all which is again defined as ignorance in the scriptures. Ignorance is nothing but forgetfulness of the truth.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So what are the approaches of forgetfulness? Are you saying that detachment is one of the approach of forgetfulness?
No, so everything that has happened, all thoughts, energy, or matter, anything that happened after pure awareness. So remember, there is the truth, then there is a recognition of the truth, which is what we call as pure consciousness. Now, this pure consciousness or awareness starts to become aware of everything else, which is your day to day life. So, first starts your individuality, then that I or Newton as the individual starts getting attached or conditioned to different things through your senses, through your thoughts, through your emotions, through your attachments, through your desires. These all start kicking in. All of these put together is what we call as forgetfulness of truth, or the appearance or loss, or the appearance of loss or forgetfulness of the truth. Now, the key word here, Newton, is appearance. It's not actually happening, it only appears to be happening. Because out of nothing, if truth is silent and still, then out of nothing, how can something appear? The only way it can is if it's imagined or it's illusory. It only appears to be there. So forgetfulness is a culmination and combination of everything that we call life. When you are identified, or when this pure consciousness has become identified with what it is actually imagining and starts to believe that that imagination is actually real, is what we call life. And that is nothing but an appearance of forgetfulness. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So the only practice that is needed is to keep remembering, constantly remembering what truth is. With every action, every emotion, every event, every attachment, every desire, every belief, every dogma, whatever it may be, you have to constantly remember the truth. So what will happen is the more you remember, the more you start automatically non-attaching yourself. Because now to you, if you believe with the conviction that truth is just still and silent and everything else is false, then whether you're attached or non-attached is irrelevant. So you automatically become, if it's imaginary, then what is the relevance of it? Nothing. It's imaginary. Just the way you are not attached to your dream or not attached to the movie. The only time you cry in a movie is when you get identified with the movie, or you laugh in a movie when you're identified with it. Once you're out of it, once you realize that it was just a movie and it's gone, you forget about it. Even the dream, as long as you're identified with the dream, it appears to be real. So this is nothing but a case of mistaken identity. And all the problems and suffering, they're just imaginary. They're not, they only appear to be there. And as long as pure consciousness, and that is the only thing. The truth, which appears as pure consciousness, pure awareness, then gets identified with its own imagining. So the only thing that is there is the truth, which in the end is silent and still. So individuality has no locus standi per se. It's only something that you've identified with. And you've identified with such deep conviction that you started to believe that that is real. And hence, everything that is linked to that individuality, has now taken over. So if you keep believing and looking at everything from Newton's point of view or perspective, then you will analyze, you will intellectualize, you will debate, you will do everything, try to figure things out from Newton's perspective. But Newton per se is not there. It's the same example that the scriptures give you between the rope and the snake. The snake who appears to be there, the rope that appears to be the snake, is only an appearance. The snake actually is not there. But till you identify the rope as snake, you have everything, all emotions related not as the rope, but for the snake. So you have fear, you have, whatever people feel, looking at a reptile, you have all of those emotions linked to it. Till you realize that the rope was the rope and not the snake. So the snake was never there. The snake did not disappear. It's the false knowledge that the snake was there is gone. And that's the same way here. So remembrance of the truth brings you back to, constantly brings you back to what is and not what is believed to be there. So now if you live your life with that, then there's nothing to be worried about or stressed about, or, it's all imaginary. So you stop identifying. Eventually, in the end, as you continue on this path, what will happen is the identification will stop. And that is what is known as the dissolution of ego, or that's how it's been defined. It's nothing but you'll just stop identifying. And that's it. This is it. Guys, no rocket science here. This is it. All of these people that are trying to tell you or have been written and masters, this is it in its simplicity. This is what this whole thing is about.
This path liberates Sri Ashish. It's whatever is getting added to us from the birth, the path you described, it's taking out one by one and going back to the state that we were in before afterlife happened. Yeah.
Yeah, before, now, and after.
Yes.
That
Yes.
state always there. It was always there, is, will be. Whether you believe it or not, is, there, will be.
Yeah. It makes perfect sense.
So, anybody questions?
Uh, uh, I feel that is a very good sentence. Identifying is a culprit of truth. Is that the statement in summary?
So, identification is the forgetfulness or the appearance of forgetfulness of truth.
Okay. So our effort has to be how not to identify ourselves with the thing, right?
Yeah, and the practice
Mhm.
is by remembrance. The
Remember.
more you remember, the less you will identify with what is not.
So remember,
You remember the truth each time. What is the truth? Silent and still.
right, yeah. Oh, I see. It's beautiful and very difficult to do that one. Uh, but we will try with your guidance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
start. By being here today, you've started.
right, yeah.
The people who are meant to be here are here. So many invitations went out, so many discussions happened to join, but these are the people who have joined. There are some people who even signed up. The people who are meant to listen to this are here.
Yes, it's
So
great. Yeah,
here it is.
yeah, it's great and something new in our mind, which we never knew about this thing.
So
Mhm.
now I've been asked to write a book on this.
Uh-huh.
So I will start, but all future satsangs, conversations, the reason why this is an important day and a special day
Yeah,
is that now from here on, this is it. This is the only thing that I will discuss. This is the only thing I will guide on. This is the
wow.
only thing
It's,
that will become the central focal point of anything and everything
right.
that I will do. From this day on, nothing else will be said,
Uh-huh.
or everything else becomes irrelevant.
So, if I had to make a small sentence, the purpose of our life is to find a truth. Is that make sense?
The purpose of your life is to remember what
Uh-huh.
appears to be have been lost or forgotten, which is nothing but the truth.
Truth, yeah, yeah. Okay. Oh, that is a really great, great thing. Actually, it is the ultimate of everything. Yeah. It may take few days for us to inculcate this kind of thought, digest actually, but it is really something awakening. Uh, Purpose of life should be truth. Yeah, that's wonderful. It is higher than the happiness.
Good.
Happiness is the
That's it. You asked the, I saw in because I read all your text messages that happens in the Chicago group. I don't
okay,
respond because I prefer that you come for the conversation because
right,
when people tend to write, right, it could be interpreted in different ways.
right. Yeah,
So I prefer, so all of you have direct access to me. You can text me, call me anytime you want to discuss this. And you asked the question in that. You
right.
said, you asked, I think, Anil, is
Yeah.
what is the truth, Anil? And this is it. That's all this is about. This whole
Hmm.
journey or path, and and
Yeah.
different parts of yoga which have been defined, whether it's karma yoga or Gyan Yoga or Dhyan Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, you know, the crux, it's all eventually culminating into this. And this has been my understanding, practice, and experience. And this is what I would like to share with whoever is wanting to listen, whoever may want to listen, and whoever is not interested to listen.
Sri Ashish, it's amazing the way you defined truth. That definition collapses all the analytical mind and bring reveals the truth. Because see, when I was searching, I do not know what is that truth that I am searching. But when you put truth into words of silent and stillness, I think that makes perfect sense because
So
it's
that
not
so that credit
changing.
goes to Ramanna. Means I only understood it and then I practiced it and then I experienced it. But that definition goes to Ramanna Maharshi. And in
Yes.
all his teachings, that was the crux. I've told Anil so many times that I've read so many books on this topic, but what stuck with me are just these two definitions of what Ramanna said, which is silence is truth, stillness is God. And then somebody asked him, what is the self? He defined self as it is a state, it's a silent, thought free state of undisturbed peace and total stillness, which means the same thing. Everything else was irrelevant after that. And then as I practiced, I went through all the practices, and this is where I came out of this. I went through self-inquiry, surrender. I did meditation, Kriya Yoga, um, Karma Yoga. Like I did all of the practices, and this is what was the crux. Out of all of this, from my understanding and my experience, it was just if you remember the truth with the same conviction constantly, if you keep remembering, then everything else is the same thing. It's all automatic. Whether Adi Shankaracharya was saying non-attachment, discrimination, his Viveka Chudamani basically says it's the crest jewel of discrimination. He says discriminate between what is real and unreal. And from there, you practice non-attachment. It all, same thing, remembrance. So if you remember, and that's it. This is my path. This is what I culminated from my understanding, my practice, and my experience. And that's all it is.
Oh, we must have passed the book to that's
So
one. Also, this video presentation, what we discuss, we can repeatedly listen. That
yes, so this we will make available uh, soon as well, just the way all the satsangs are available. Even
yeah,
the last one,
yeah.
we need to put that up. So the surrender in this one. But this is it. This is why I told Anil that it's very important that people who've been following should come because this is the most important satsang. And there's a gentleman on the call here who I only met 3 weeks ago, who's here. And my purpose of joining his yoga classes was so he could actually come and listen to this. From Monday onwards, I will not go for any yoga class. So my purpose of attending some yoga classes was only so that this gentleman could join this session today. And hopefully we'll follow after that, this practice.
Well, that being said, I want to thank you for the invitation to this satsang, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the conversations and the questions, and it makes a lot of sense for so many things that have been going on in my life. So once again, I just wanted to thank you and for the invite, and I will definitely continue this practice.
Good. Very good.
I do have one question now.
Sure.
I was thinking about this while I was on a run this morning, and is it just humans that have this ability to realize the truth or uncover the truth or reveal the truth to themselves? Is this exclusive to us? And that makes, if it is, it brings another question of more like why. But
So scriptures or texts have suggested that that you know uh, the process, the only thing that is differentiating probably human form than the animal form or the plant form is that humans have the ability to intellect, they've got the intellect. The animals form actually works on instinct, and there is certain amount of intellect, the intellectual part is required to um, start any kind of um, practice or just remembrance. Now, having said that, in reality, or I would not say in reality, that's the wrong word. In as time has gone by, I'm aware that Ramanna actually, by touching um, his head to a cow, um, the belief is that the cow also, had an awakening of the truth or the realization of the truth. If you go to Ramanna's ashram in Tiruvannamalai, there is the statue of the cow. I think its name was Lakshmi. There are a couple of, I think there are some birds, right, Anil? There were two crows, um, and there are some animals as well. So um, it's possible, but I think that realization from the animal state is that um, they've not yet got the next uh, piece, which is the intellectual understanding, because this has to come from the starting point of remembrance has to come from understanding, and the right understanding and the right knowledge, and that is being utilized by this whole appearance of the consciousness now trying to find a way back or remembering. So that's the way the progression is, but in the end, um, realization could happen. There's no way for um, it's not been written down like any plant has got the realization, but from uh, from the understanding that I have, that there should be no basis that it can only be human beings or human form. I would not even say human beings, but human form. It can happen to anybody at any time.
They may not
okay,
be that away from the truth, Sri Ashish. Animals, the, humans, we have a lot more abstractive thinking, and we go away from the truth
But the
faster
thing,
than.
yeah, but the thing is, I think what he's asking Srinivas here is that look, if everything is just an appearance, then really whether you are in human form or animal form or plant form or in inanimate form, which are all the five sheets as we call them at in yoga. Probably if you recall, there are five sheets, or we call them koshas, right?
hmm
Anandamaya kosha, then you have pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, jnanamaya kosha, and then anandamaya kosha, right? These five sheets, and these are nothing but development of different forms. These sheets are basically define the different developments of different forms. So, and the closest to Anandamaya Kosha, which is, and truth being beyond that is, Jnanamaya Kosha, which is where scriptures have defined that, the human form is. So I would say that the quickest realization would be in human form, but that does not negate any realization from any other form. It just may be that the remembrance part, just the way the game is played, um, you go through the process and then the recognition comes back, after the game has been played. Because remember, it's still just a game. It's just a dream. And it's been, as long as pure awareness is there, it cannot remain pure. So, there's still constant perpetual. So that's why they call the samsaric life as perpetual.
Okay. Well, thank you, and for the answer and indulging my curiosity there.
No, good. That's good. So these satsangs matter. That's why I told you they're different. They are meant not for me to preach, right? Or teach, or
Mhm.
this is not preaching. This is each person asking the questions and clarification so that they can go through their understanding. But it always will start with eventually coming to step one, which is coming to the right understanding. From right knowledge will come right practice or right action. And from right action or practice will come the right experience.
Beautifully put.
Anybody else? Vishal, Harpreet? You guys are on mute. Okay. Anil, you're awfully quiet today.
I'm just listening.
Okay, good.
This- but I think I can ask one question. We are all here with body and senses. We all go to work, we eat, we sleep, all perceived by our minds and felt by our nervous system, right? What is the purpose of realizing the truth?
So, what do you think is the purpose of realize? What will happen if you realize the truth? Let's say tomorrow you realize the truth. What happens? What happens with your mind, with your body, with your senses, with these tools or instruments that have been provided to you? Now, if you are awakened and aware of the truth and you know it, just the way you know, that Anil Joshi is in existence, how would your life change?
What I think it will change is that I will not be worried about the things that happen in this body and senses. Even if I fall from the second floor, I get hurt, I would experience that this is an imaginary. I'll get hurt, I'll have pain, but the understanding would be that this is an illusion. My inner happiness or the experience remains the same before falling and after falling.
So, could we define that as genuine freedom?
Yes.
And that's what you'll get. That is exactly what happens. There is genuine freedom from everything. And from there comes complete acceptance and rejection of everything. In 100, absolute acceptance is absolute rejection. And an absolute rejection is an absolute acceptance of all things.
So the practice is that application of remembering the truth. So what we see in body and mind and senses is not the real. You will have those experiences that a body and mind and the nervous system in the body will experience. But this remembrance that you're talking about will uplift you. from those temporary, transient, body mind experiences.
Correct. Because you're genuinely being free from that. You're now not identifying with those body, mind, and experiences as your own. So the identification process is stopped. The reason why you feel the pain is because you identified with it. The reason why you're looking for freedom is because you believe that you're bound. So what happens is the more you remember, so the practice of constant remembrance automatically translates into non-attachment, automatically translates into getting freedom or genuine freedom. So now you look at life and you live life for what it is and not what you've so far believed it to be or want it to be. And you've asked me this question so many times. What is the purpose? Nothing. It's just entertainment. Entertainment for whom? Nobody. Because the whom itself is imaginary. So this is nothing but imagination of the imaginary. Because the truth is silent and still. Something has appeared that has created all this havoc and eventually on its own also disappears. When you wake up, same way the dream. When you dream and you identified with the dream, all the havoc in the dream you believe is real till you wake up. Which is why when you wake up, you laugh and you have nothing else but to laugh. Hence the saying, don't take anything seriously. Don't take life too seriously. Don't take anything personally.
And the other thing is that the truth that we are all talking about, you are that truth.
You are always. That is the only thing. The commonality in truth, the recognition of that truth, the appearance of recognition and the appearance of forgetfulness and loss of the truth. So everything is the truth only. It's all there. The only thing that is common in all of that is the truth. That will always, was always there, is always there, will always be there.
And the practical application of this knowledge is that when you are sick or when you don't have money to pay your mortgage or when one of your relatives has died, you will not feel bad. You will not be anxious. You will not be fearful because you have this knowledge.
Correct. And like we discussed, I think yesterday or day before yesterday, you can still be, fully engaged and involved in life. It's just that you don't, identify with it, but you're fully engaged and involved. You're not attached to it. So nobody says that you just have to sit in one room and do nothing. And that also is fine. If that's what makes you happy, then sit in one room. It's not easy to just sit in one room and sit in silence, but that's what makes you happy, then that's what you do. And if that's what at that moment you want to do, you do. But this brings complete and absolute freedom from everything. Now, once you get that and you look at life, then life is just, as I said, it's simple, it's pure, and it's beautiful. It's the most wonderful thing.
See, Anil, Ashish, somehow we got hooked to the bait of body and mind. And what you are offering liberates us from that hook. Anil, I'm sincerely saying when I used these words from Guruji's definition of truth, what I identified, I think I found the solution. Mm, whether you are happy or suffering, when you remember that truth is silent and stillness is God, irrespective of what situation you are in or how your emotions or day is going, all that, you will be liberating from this body and mind. Um, may not be at all the times, but you become aware that, oh, I can get liberated just by remembering that, and you will be walking that path again and again, and it may become the totality or entire path at some point in time, and that makes sense. I think. See, I was thinking a lot, but what Guruji said, offered today, that's truth. You are thinking that it liberates us from suffering, but it liberates from body and mind. It's not just suffering or happiness or emotions, all that. It gets you to the place where we will be in that peaceful state. Yeah, that makes sense,
Correct.
Guru.
Good. Good, Srinivas.
Yeah. Uh, can I add a few points? I was making notes of that one. Um, uh, what is the purpose of realizing truth? The truth. That is what Anil asked. The answer I made a quick note because I don't want to forget until I hear next time. I want to look at it. One is the fulfillment feeling. That is one is coming. Once experience of something unique beyond the trivial things in life. And another thing I felt, all misery looks like a temporary things once we move towards the truth. Not 100%, even in the path itself. Little also, miseries might go reducing. Genuine freedom is, which I never knew. What is the freedom? It is genuine freedom from everything. And a complete acceptance and absolute rejection happens. Um, what we call as a pain of any kind will start slowly disappearing. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. I'll change my notes. And now look at the life, what it is rather than what you have believed. You know, what we understood whole of our life as a life itself is changing now. And life itself is, as you said, right word. Maybe sometimes we still don't have invented right word. The life itself is kind of entertainment. Maybe some new word has to be coined, but for whom it is entertainment? You ask that question, and it is all imaginary. That is, yes. Uh, as Anil used another word, transient. I like that word also. Uh, after dream, we realize um, and laugh at the dream, which is not real. That is also passing process, I think. Um, ultimate truth is uh, you are that truth. That is one I need to know. We are the truth ourselves. That is maybe more details I would like to ask you maybe next time or something, or I'll read your book. Truth is always there. That is really good. We didn't know that it is kind of a truth itself we didn't understand before today, earlier. Practice is the one probably will overcome from all the illness, fear. Oh, practical application, Anil brought out. That is beautiful. The answer is beautiful. I think this has a solution for the entire medical industry. Uh,
I'll stop you there, Pete.
yeah.
Any solution you're trying to find is also imaginary. Stop you there. Good, good. I'm good. Bob, any questions from you?
Namaskar, Sri Ashish. I have been
Namaskar.
transferring myself from the silence that you said we should be constantly remembering. Now, these
Good.
satsangs are wonderful. Namaste to everyone. I think we are going through a beautiful period of time, which is the Dashahara today. Happy Dashahara to everyone.
Happy
I'm,
Dashera.
I'm still struggling to understand the truth you said. I thought I probably would be icing over the cake. Everybody has asked this question. We as Hindus worship so many images. I guess we identify truth in those images. A couple of days ago, I went to this temple, Kalibadi.
Yeah.
Thousands of people, so crowded. There was no silence whatsoever at all. However, they were all looking for truth, I guess, in the image of Goddess Durga. And I think when you're saying constant remembrance of truth, I'm still struggling. Is this an image I should remember? Is it my breath I should remember? Or is it something thoughtlessness I should remember? I don't know what to remember. And you said constant remembrance when we are still working. Just like Anil said, we still have to pay our bills. We have to stay healthy. We have to do all those worldly work. And at the same time, we have to remember this. And if we did, and ultimately we did achieve this goal called salvation or realization, my only fear is when we get old. I just met a lady who is 90 years old in a nursing home. Pathetic. I could not have imagined if we have to go through this. What type of life would that be? Is this what we are trying to escape from, the bodily pain or financial struggle by realizing this truth? Is this what the ultimate goal of human being is, to find ultimate happiness? Tell me, if in your practice, you just mentioned you have done so many practice. I really would like to know, what are you practicing now? I really would like to avoid, not go through that struggle of old age pain. Seriously. If this truth that I'm seeking for is going to avoid that, or I'm able to transform myself, just go and peacefully do my last breath while I'm still strong and young, that would be the ultimate accomplishment that any human being can go for. I would like to know if you're writing the book, or maybe you will tell us, what are you practicing that you are remembering that truth constantly?
So no more practice, Bob, for me. It's the truth is now me and I am the truth.
Hmm. That's
So
powerful.
so there's no more practice for me. So I look everything that happens in life, it's look with complete non-attachment. Whether it is pain, whether it's old age, whether it's suffering, whether it's war, whether it's paying bills, mortgage, there is no worry or concern. And what I find is that whatever is happening automatically. It's got nothing to do with me. So it's I would say the closest definition I can provide is I'm a witness without judgment. I observe without judgment
That's
to any,
wonderful.
to anything and everything, including what's happening within this form or outside of it. So there is no fear, no doubt, nothing, no anger, nothing. And even if anything appears, it's not even identified with it. It just appears for whatever purpose it appears for, and there's no analysis to it. There is no figuring out, no judgment to it, nothing.
And that's great. I really would like to know, what did you practice that
This,
you
this,
arrived at this?
this is it. For all my practices, this is what finally I culminated into, and then I practiced this to understand, and then finally have knowing, direct knowing, and direct experience. This is it. What I just defined to you is, if you do it, if you stop questioning it and believe with this conviction that what I've told you today, and just keep remembering this with everything, you will find that slowly it will start to reveal itself. And at one point, you will become it, because you already are it. All the other things that you defined that are happening have made you forget who you truly are. And all you have to do is remember who you truly are and stop identifying with who you believe you should be or who you believe you are. You're not Bob Parida. You are the truth. You are God. You are pure consciousness. You already are now, here and now. You just have to believe it with the same conviction that you believe that you're Bob Parida. That's all.
So, Bob, this is the false knowledge, right? I think the example that Sri Ashish gave, you see a rope on the road, but you believe that this is a snake. That belief or that knowledge is the false knowledge. So long you have the false knowledge, we continue to think what we are seeing, what we are feeling, what we are experiencing is truth. So the learning is to know the right knowledge, not the false knowledge. That's why if you actually look at Adi Shankaracharya's work, 1200 years ago, all he's trying to say is to discriminate between what is the truth, what is not. What is not is ignorance. The day you realize the right knowledge or understand the right knowledge, then you know this is a rope, not a snake. So long you have snake, you have fear. You see colors, you see all kinds of things associated with snake. That I think, so the switch is knowledge, right knowledge and false knowledge. Knowledge and ignorance. That switch has to come from false knowledge to true knowledge. As soon as that switch happens, everything becomes clear. It's very hard because what we see through our senses, what we feel through our mind and experience, it is so much engrossing. It's so much fog that we are not able to see the truth. That's kind of what we have to kind of practice and get away from this fog to see the mountain of truth behind.
Absolutely.
Did that, Bob, what I said, did that clarify your, did you get your clarification?
Yes. The practice is what I think your second point is so important to arrive at our third point of realization. That is the key. That is the key.
Yeah. Guruji, for Bob's question, very interesting questions and interesting answer. Can I take as a tips for time being until I read your book or when it comes up? We should practice some silence and stop identifying ourselves, right? And then we may be in the path towards the pure consciousness. And is that the practical stuff interim process till we,
So that's good, but practice just remembrance of this, what we discussed today.
Okay.
practice as much as possible. Of course, when you sit in silence
Mhm.
in your morning, in your
Mhm.
meditation, remember this,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Within that's the whole point of doing meditation is to go inward, right? If you take the path of Dhyan Yoga,
Mhm.
right, interiorization of the mind basically means to go inward to find the truth. Meditation basically stops your outward conditioning or outward senses, it cuts it off so that you can go deep within to
Mhm.
basically recognize the truth. Correct? So if you're sitting in morning practice, whatever, 15, 20, 30 minutes,
Mhm.
that's your remembrance. That's your time to remember. Now, as you extend that time, like whatever free time you have, start with this. Take whatever free time in the day you have. And as much free time you have, try to remember what the truth is. Start with that. Whether you sit in silence, whether even 15 minutes in
Mhm.
your office, if
Mhm.
you have free time,
Mhm.
come back to this center. Try to remember what the truth is.
Okay.
Start this.
Even in meetings also we can practice that.
If you get any time,
Anytime.
24/7.
Yes, yeah. It's amazing. It constantly walks us towards the truth, the technique that you offered. It's remembrance. As we practice the remembrance, we reach there. And all these why and questions dissolve because we are going to find that.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Exactly. The more the truth reveals itself, which is silence and still, everything else that's there will start disappearing on its own.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, good for today. We are at 11:30 now, so I think any other questions or should we stop here?
Thank you, Sri Ashish. Thank you, Anil,
Okay.
for your clarification.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Adi.
you.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.